Talking of the solstice, so Friday the 22nd of December, I've written down 3:17, but I think it's 3:27 a.m. It's the tipping point, isn't it? So we have the shortest day and the longest night, but it's a tipping point because after this we are going to gain some extra daylight. So this doesn't happen until around about the 25th or the 26th of December, when the sun is born. So we have a period of standstill. We get to the winter solstice, we have the shortest day, the smallest amount of daylight, because one of the Earth's poles is tipped away from the sun. So obviously it's the opposite when you're in the southern hemisphere. Our Australian, for example, brothers and sisters will be celebrating the summer solstice. And then we have this period of standstill for a few days. So in Northern Europe, they used to believe that there was a big wheel, and that this wheel, this fiery wheel, stopped rolling, it stopped moving, and this is where we get the word Yule from. And so yeah, there's this period of standstill, and most pagans will include observing or greeting or celebrating the sun or the return of the sun in some way in their celebrations. For me, I like to observe the sun on the morning of the shortest day, so the winter solstice, and I like to observe the sun the morning after, because the sun has returned. Sorry, I meant to do that on returned, not on sun, but the sun has returned after that longest night. So even though we don't pick up with the hours of daylight until around about the 25th or the 26th, I'll have to get the date as we get closer to the time for you. I normally give you that. Although that's not happened yet, it's kind of symbolic, isn't it? So like myself and many pagans like to do that. There is no right or wrong with these things. This is the message that I really kind of want to get through to you guys, that you can celebrate this or not celebrate this, as the case might be, however you would like to do that. I think of all the winter activities that we know of for this time of year. Those are all good ways to celebrate the solstice. And then obviously you can chuck in, any sort of traditional things that you can think of. When I think of the winter solstice, I think of the concept of hygge. So many of you will know what that is. It's a sort of Scandinavian, I think it's Scandinavian, it might be Danish, but this concept of like warm and snuggly and sort of hibernation. So anything that fits into those parameters, I think, is a good way to celebrate the winter solstice. Many people have a big seasonal dinner. I like to do that. I think of baking, snuggling, watching TV, movies, winter walks, bringing the outside in, so bringing those evergreens in to decorate the home. And then many people take on acts of service or giving to charity or working for charities. So obviously, like the most ideal charities at this time of year to give your time and money and energy to are things like homelessness charities and food banks, just sort of winter related things almost. And then obviously you can celebrate the sun in various ways. That might be getting up to greet it. That might be just, a nod to it, a respectful wave or a hello, or you could write a poem or some verse. You could make orange slices, decorations using those. So normally that involves cooking them in the oven on a really, really low heat for a really long time. I find it a bit hit and miss. I have tried this and it's much nicer though than trying to dry dandelions. I tried to dry dandelions in the oven and they had the most disgusting smell, and I felt ill for about 2 days. I felt really sick, and that was for a recipe, and I should have just picked them on a day when it was warm, sunny, dry, but which is the ideal to pick anything when you're foraging. But I had read that you could dry them out on a low heat in the oven, and I tried that and it was disgusting. At least with creating orange slices to represent the sun, they smell absolutely beautiful. So yeah, just a few ideas for you there. Another idea is a Christmas card ritual, which I had made into a video many moons ago. It's one of my earlier videos, so it's a bit embarrassing, but I'll just basically run through now with you. But it's basically the idea of hanging on to your Yule and Christmas cards, and then having a fire. So you could do this inside if you're lucky enough to have fireplaces, or you could do this outside. If you can't do that, then you could do this with a small cauldron, but I would suggest transferring the names, and I'll explain that in a minute. But you could do it with a candle and a cauldron. But basically, you take your Christmas cards, you take time to wish each recipient of the person who sent the card. You take time to wish them, you know, happiness, love, fertility, joy, blessings, good health, whatever it is you want to incorporate into your ritual. And you wish them good things for the next year ahead, and then you place that into the fire and burn it. So if you wanted to do this with a candle and a small fireproof dish or cauldron, then I would suggest, rather than burning the card, which might be a bit too big to pop in and you might end up with some sort of fiery incident, which we want to avoid, you could transfer just the name onto a small piece of paper and burn that. And also, if you are not comfortable with burning your cards because you feel like it's a waste, what you could do is do the same, transfer the names onto a small piece of paper, and then you could use, so many people use their Yule and Christmas cards to make tags. So this is an ideal one because you can just cut around the hair, and he makes an absolutely gorgeous tag for Christmas presents, your presents for next year. So however you would like to do this, it's just a really nice little ritual, a little sort of, you know, after your close of year or even in the new year tradition, and you just take some time to send some good wishes to the people that have sent you good wishes. Obviously you can add names to the list. You don't have to, you know, limit it to the people that have sent you Christmas cards. You know, this isn't well, you sent me a Christmas card, so I'm going to give you something nice back, but I'm not going to bother with anyone else type thing. But most people end up with cards from their loved ones, and it's just a really nice symbolic thing to do, where you are literally putting the cards into the fire, and then that also just, you know, clears away the energy of your and Christmas as you step into the new year. So it's just one of those nice little things that's just, it kind of completes the circle almost, doesn't it, rather than put them in the recycling bin. But again, if you want to recycle them, then just do that. So I just thought that's a really, really nice idea, something I like to do when I can. Obviously January is still cold enough that you have fires burning and things like that. For some people in some houses it's actually warm enough to go outside, or sorry, it's warmer to have a fire outside and sit around the fire outside than it actually is to be inside. So it could just give you a nice activity in the new year.